You can see. So this is a little American alligator. It's not a crocodile. Okay, here we go. Here's a couple more. In fact, one of them just flew. I'm not sure what it is about birds that makes them so appealing. Maybe it's the variety of colors they come in, the elaborate courtship behaviors they display, or the cool methods that they have for securing food and capturing prey. Maybe it's just the fact that they can take off and fly sometimes hundreds of miles to breeding grounds or feeding areas. Whatever the reason, most people really like birds. Let's take a look at some of the avian fauna that we have right here in the Lowcountry. The woods behind me are home to one of the coolest birds of all, the butcher bird. And biologist Amy Tegler from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources is here to show us one.
Yeah, so we're at Nemours today, and we're going to go out and look for some loggerhead shrikes. They're a really cool bird that lives here in South Carolina. They are frequently seen in pastures, and they also like 2 or 3 year post clear-cut areas, early shrub-scrub habitat. But here in South Carolina, we also see them in some of this open pine savanna.
And you've seen them here, right?
Yes, yes, we have seen some here right behind us. So loggerhead shrikes have a really cool natural history.
Yeah, and I have to tell my story. When I was in college, I actually found a 6-lined race runner, a really cool lizard, and it was impaled on a barbed wire fence. And at first I was like, who could have done this to this lizard? I did a little bit of research and found out it was a loggerhead shrike that had stuck that thing on the barbed wire fence.
Yes, their feeding strategy is really amazing. So what they'll do is they will capture small things like small mammals, small birds, frogs, insects, and what they do is they collect them in their strong beak, and then they'll hit them against hard objects like a tree or a wall, or they will take it and they will pierce it with a barbed wire fence or a hawthorn in order to kill their prey so they can eat it.
So butcher bird is an appropriate name.
Yes, that's why they're called a butcher bird, and it's a really unique and interesting part of their natural history.
So most people have never seen a shrike. Are their numbers declining?
Yes, their numbers have declined over the last few decades, and that's part of the reasons we're doing this research. This is a research project that goes in Canada all the way down through the southeastern part of the U.S. So this is part of a large regional project.
And you're actually going to catch birds. So how are we going to catch one? That's what I'm so excited about.
Yeah, so today we're going to go out, we're going to try to find them, and then we have some traps that we're going to set out. And hopefully the birds will fly right in, and then we'll catch them and take some measurements and put some bands on.
Amy, I think there's a bird right next to the cage.
Got one, I'm gonna go get it.
Amy, so we've caught a bird. I'm just excited about seeing one up close. I've seen them in the field a bunch from a long distance, but this is going to be really cool.
Yeah.
I love that cool band through the eye.
Yes, yeah, they're a gorgeous
handsome
bird.
Is it a male or female? Can you tell pretty? It's kind of tough to tell, isn't it?
Yeah, this time of year it's going to be really hard. During the breeding season, the females will have a brood patch to incubate the eggs. So I could just blow on the belly, and you could see the belly through the feathers.
I noticed it's nipping you a little bit, so they have pretty sharp bills.
One of the first things I'm gonna do is put it in a little toilet paper roll tube so that it doesn't do that.
Oh, that's really cool. That's ingenious.
And the birds do okay in this. There's plenty of room in there.
What kind of information do you need to get from it?
We're going to get some information on the age. We're going to take some morphological measurements. So we're going to take some measurements of the legs and the wings to try to get an idea of the body condition. We are going to put some color bands, a unique set of color bands on these legs, on the legs of this bird. So we know exactly which individual this is when we see it again. And then we're also going to put an aluminum band on the leg with a unique number on it.
And so you hope to get a recapture of this bird, right? You hope to see it again?
I hope to see it again, yep. So in the breeding season, we're going to come back out here to see if it's still here and to see if it has a territory and a nest. If you can see, the color bands, they wrap around the leg a few times. When we do that, because the shrikes are really, really skilled with their mouth.
That cool beak.
So they're very, very good at prying off color bands. Each bird's going to have a dark green on it because that is for our state color. However, the two colors on the other leg are going to be different for each bird. And that's how we're going to know which individual this is. So on this bird, we have a light blue and a white band.
Right. So these guys are year-round residents, but how far do they move?
That's part of what we're trying to find out. The general thought is that many of our shrikes are year-round residents. Resighting these birds will help us know, are they truly residents? Are they short distance migrants? Maybe they just move around in South Carolina. Maybe they just moved to a different place on the moors. We're also going to be collecting some feathers, samples.
Genetic material for.
Yeah, so we're going to be looking at stable isotope analysis and hopefully some trace elements from these different feathers.
So, since you have this bird in your hand, it's neat to just look at some of the features that help it to do what it does. And I noticed the beak and the feet, and boy, the coloration is just fabulous, isn't it?
Yeah. And so if you can see on the beak and how it keeps on biting me, it has some hooks on it. And this species, what they typically eat live prey. And they use that beak to have a tight grip on their prey. Yeah.
Like a raptor, even though it's not a raptor, to tear things apart, right?
Yep, yes.
Do they use the feet at all for capturing prey?
No, they don't have the strong talons like a hawk or an eagle. No, they are very reliant on more of their beak. So we're finished processing this bird, so we can take it out into the field and release it now.
Great. So, can I do the honors?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to take him right. Ow, boy, that does.
It does hurt.
I saw you get bit a whole bunch of times. It's more funny when you get bit than when I get bit. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just kind of hold him like this and let him go.
Just keep your hand under and let go.
Okay, well, here goes. Looks good.
Yeah.
Looks like he's doing well.
He's great.
Well, thank you so much for letting us join in your research today, and I appreciate all that you're doing for birds like shrikes and other species.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, so we were driving along the road and we saw some kind of ruckus in this mustard, and there's a red-tailed hawk right in here, and he keeps climbing on the top of this building, these ruins, and then jumping back down into this mustard. And he's obviously hunting something. I assume it's a small mammal or a snake. We don't know for sure, but he's really bouncing around in there too, and that's not something that I've not seen this before, but they're voracious predators, and they eat snakes, small mammals, squirrels, all kinds of things. Not exactly sure what he has here. Now, to complicate things even further, there's a couple of crows that are flying around and probably scaring off what he's trying to catch. But crows are pretty rough on raptors. I mean, they don't like raptors around. And so they're gonna caw and try and run off birds like this. He's got a snake. Oh my gosh. So that was a snake. I mean, a great big snake. It looks like a rat snake. And so maybe we can see, that was absolutely incredible. So we now figured out what he was chasing around, so a rat snake. All right, let's go see if we can find it. Guys, that was a big snake. That thing was 3.5, 4 feet long. He's right on the ground, he's right here. And he's actually eating the snake. I can see his mouth moving. Obviously he can't swallow this thing whole, so what he's doing is rip it into little strips so that he can gulp them down. Boy, that is a big snake. So the hawk flew off with the snake. He's actually perched in this tree over here. You can see the snake kind of hanging down. But I think we ought to let him finish his snake in peace. But I'll tell you what, you rarely get to see things like this in nature. This is really cool. Chris is going to show us a really common but really secretive animal that lives right here in the salt marsh. And we're going to stay low so they can't see us.
Clapper rail is an amazing animal. It blends in. We're in a special place because there's so many territories here. We've got some background noise.
I've heard some calling, but I also hear the din of Paris Island in the background.
That's right. It shows that even the bird's secretive. It can live close to people, and people don't even know it.
Right, and obviously these birds are used to it.
And just one of the things we're going to do is we're going to use the a playback to see what we can get. And this is the sound of a clapper rail right here.
So we'll see if one walks up, but tell us a little bit about this bird.
It's a bird of the salt marsh, and it gets its name, clapper rail, because of the sound it makes. Matter of fact, often if you, particularly in the wintertime, or sometimes you clap your hands real loud, and it'll get them to respond, sort of like when you do that.
Listen.
It works better in the winter than the breeding
Yeah,
season.
it's definitely, I've seen it work before.
Yeah, so hence the name. It's a bird that has a lot of predators. It's very important in the salt marsh as far as being a major predator itself, though, of invertebrates. And it's migratory for some areas, but we're so mild here in South Carolina, our birds are not migratory.
Right. Now, clapper rails are common, but hard to see, right?
That's right. Think about it. If you have a bunch of predators, then you're going to be secretive. Everything about the bird is designed to keep it from being seen.
Right. And the term rail thin comes from the fact that they are very slender from side to side, so they can move through the grass and in this case, the Spartina grass without.
Spartina grass.
And they feed primarily on crabs and shrimp as adults, right?
That's correct. And anything small size. So they also feed on fish as well. There's even one instance of a clapper rail running out and grabbing a least sandpiper and running back into the grass. So they're very opportunistic.
Okay, well, I don't see any around here, but you want to move to another spot?
This is an area where they move through and there's some deeper grass, but I know an area where it's right next to a place that I think they're nesting. And they're nesting right now. There might even be some chicks.
All right, let's go give it a try.
Okay, sounds good.
I see one.
There's one over there.
Yeah, it's jumping right at us.
Don't move, don't move. Watch real slowly. Look at the stripes on the side of the body, because that shows that they're adapted for living in grass. By having those vertical stripes, it helps break up the shape of the bird. Look at the bill, the bill's slightly curved. Now look, they swim also. So here comes one swimming.
Swim. That's really cool.
And look at that bill, it's slightly curved. And they use that for they love fiddler crabs, like most things in the salt marsh. And they also...
They're really calling away. So is this announcing that this is their territory?
Yes, it is. And because we did the playback, they know that another clapper rail, or they think another clapper rail's in their territory. And this is the song. We're going to play the call one more time.
I can see a head poking around. Here we go. Here we go, right in front of us.
The neat thing about being in South Carolina is that we have clapper rails that breed, but in the wintertime, all the birds that are to the north of us, the clapper rails that nest up in Virginia, up through New England, come down here and spend the winter with us. Right. So that's the other time we'll see them. It's got chicks.
Oh my gosh, look.
We've got two parents with chicks. So we've got family, just what I thought.
The chicks are jet black, aren't they?
Yeah, they're jet black.
There's three, I see three, Chris.
Yeah, and there was another one that came before, so I have at least four. Clapper rails have a brood. Usually they lay an average of 10 eggs in a nest, and the nest is a platform that keeps the eggs out of the water during the high tides. And they've documented that clapper rail eggs can actually be submerged by high tide and still hatch. So they're amazing.
How long can they be submerged for a whole tidal cycle?
For a whole tidal cycle. Looking at these chicks, by the way, these chicks are at least a week old.
Boy, the chicks are cute.
We think these chicks are about a week old.
So we moved a little bit closer, Chris. It's hard to not point.
I know, it's really, really difficult.
This one has some mud on its beak, so obviously it's been probing for crabs and shrimp. Here comes a chick.
There goes the chick. That's what we thought we were. Now, the cool thing about these chicks is they're like little chickens. They're what we call precocial. When the eggs hatch, they're fully feathered, and within an hour they can leave the nest. And so the parents stay with them and warn them about predators.
There's two chicks right in front of us.
Yeah, I see.
I'll try not to point. There
this
goes
right
one.
is hard.
Here goes the other one.
Looking around. You can have them right in the grass right next to you. It's an easy bird to overlook unless you know what the sound is like. And we just are very fortunate to be here at a time when they're a lot more visible because it's the breeding season and they're taking care of chicks. And this is a unique place where we can be secretive and enter the birds' world and they let us get closer.
There he goes again.
There he goes.
One more walk by.
That's right.
Well, Chris, I can safely say that's the closest I've ever been to a clapper rail. I appreciate you spending the day with us and taking us out and showing us this.
Well, it was great to be able to do this with you. We need to do this more often.
I agree. Today we're going to capture and band one of the most beautiful birds in the Low Country. And Lex Glover from South Carolina Department of Natural Resources has been studying these birds for 20 years. And I'll tell you, I'm really excited about this, Lex, because I've never seen a Baltimore oriole in the wild.
Well, good deal. We hope that's going to change today.
Well, how many have you caught?
I probably have trapped and banded about 1,400.
Yeah, so you're a little ahead of me.
A little bit.
So Lex, I've seen these birds in field guides and they're beautiful, but can you tell me a little bit more about coloration and size?
Yes, these birds are about the size of a cardinal or a red-winged blackbird, and they're actually a member of the blackbird family. So they've got that nice long pointed bill. The males are a brilliant orange underneath, and they have black on top. Their heads are black, their wings are black. So it's a very striking color. It's something you can't miss if you see it, up in a tree somewhere.
Well, I'll tell you what's really neat about this. We're in somebody's backyard.
Yes.
And so this is important habitat for these birds, right?
It is. A lot of people do not think of it like that, but I have a lot of homeowners that appreciate the fact that we come out and study these birds that they feed or have in their backyard. They like the idea that their backyard is now part of a bigger picture.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, before we talked about doing the segment, I didn't even know Baltimore orioles showed up in South Carolina.
They haven't been around all that long. I think it was back in the 1940s that the birds were first noted wintering in the state.
So they're not here all year?
They are not. They're a winter resident for us.
All right, so you have an ingenious trap for catching these, and I'm fascinated by this because I love traps.
Okay.
I love to catch things. So can you tell us a little bit about how this works?
Sure. I just happened to take a seed feeder trap, and basically it works like a fish or a crab trap. The birds go in and they can't quite see how to get out.
And I see what the bait is, grape jelly, huh?
Grape jelly, that's one of their favorite backyard bird foods. I'm not sure who decided to offer grape jelly to birds or what bird decided to taste it, but it's very similar to the sugar water that the hummingbirds feed on.
So they love grape jelly, but what would they normally be feeding on?
They're feeding heavily on insects. We still have a sizable population of insects throughout the winter.
Well, I'm excited about this because I like looking at birds through binoculars, but it's even more fun to think about catching one and holding it in your hands. There's an oriole sitting in the tree right here. So hoping he's going to come for this grape jelly.
We're all set, so we'll just step back and let the birds come in.
Okay. So Lex, we're going to peek around the corner and we hear some chattering.
We hear some chattering, so there could be a bird in the trap.
Oh yeah,
yes,
sure enough.
Okay, if you'll go get the trap, I'll get
Oh my gosh.
We got quite a few
A
actually.
whole bunch of them.
Okay.
Wow, that's a lot of birds, Lex.
Yeah.
The allure of grape jelly.
That's right.
Did we get the whole flock?
We might have. Let's see.
Okay, Lex, I'm going to go ahead and grab one of these birds.
Go ahead.
And I'll use that grip he taught me. And let's just real quick look at this. So this is a female, isn't it?
Well, we'll see. It's likely a female or it could be an immature male.
Boy, they are beautiful. Even the females of this species are very brightly colored. And I see that classic blackbird bill. I imagine they can poke you pretty good with this, can't they?
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so he needs to go in the box,
Yeah,
right?
so we'll go in this one right here.
This is a really ingenious little box for keeping them. Boy, look at the coloration on that.
So this is what we call an after second year bird. That means this bird is at least 2 years old because it takes 2 years for them to become an adult.
How long do these birds live?
Most of our songbirds will live on average of 5 years.
Oh, okay. You know, Lex, I like looking at birds through binoculars, but this is my kind of birding
But
right
to
here.
have it in the hand, it's a whole nother world.
Yeah, I agree. There we go.
All right.
All right.
Okay, so the first thing we want to do is get the band on the bird. And these bands are lightweight, they're made out of aluminum. As you know, our wild birds are protected, federal and state law, so you have to be permitted in order to do this kind of work with a wild bird. We're going to check for fat. No fat. We're going to measure the wing. Now we're going to get a weight.
So I like your little tube.
Yeah.
Bird has to stand on his head for just a second. That's a very good way to weigh it, isn't it?
It is, because again, it keeps the bird dark
Looks like
and
what?
calm.
Okay, so we're about to let this guy go. So where will this bird go from here?
That's one of the reasons why we're banding these birds, is we want to know where they're going to go, where did they come from, where do they go to breed. I have gotten one band recovery since I've been banding these birds. A bird that I banded in Myrtle Beach 2 years later showed up in British Columbia.
Oh,
And
wow.
that is just awesome.
And that, so in South Carolina is an important part of this whole equation.
It
right?
is. In fact, the last 3 years through our survey work, we've had more wintering Baltimore orioles in our state than any other state in the country.
More than Baltimore.
Yes, more than Baltimore. All right, Tony, you want to let this one go?
I do.
Okay,
A couple of parting bites there.
there you go.
Okay, here we go. Flew off perfectly. Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen from this segment is people are going to want to know, how can they attract Baltimore orioles to their yards in South Carolina? So what's the trick to that?
The trick is to put out jelly, put out a little container of jelly and see what you get. Not only do Baltimore orioles feed on jelly, but other species of birds will also feed on it. Again, it's like a hummingbird feeder. It's a quick source of food.
Well, Lex, thank you so much. This was
Sure.
amazing. I mean, we caught 18 Baltimore orioles.
18.
And I sure appreciate the work that you're doing, the work that South Carolina Department of Natural Resources is doing.
Thank you.
This was a great day.
It was. I enjoyed it. Thanks.
Guys, I witnessed something yesterday that you just have to see. Let's go see if they're still there. Yep, looks like they're still here. If you guys look right here, here are the spoonbills, so they're here. There are a whole bunch of them, 40, 50 birds maybe. Now this is really exciting because over the past few days, it started with 9, and then it was 26, and now it's 40 or 50. So somehow the word is getting out that this is a great spot to feed, and the birds seem to know. And I see young birds, which are much, much lighter, and I also see what looks like some slightly more mature birds, which have more pink and some bright pink splotches on the wings. Now this coloration is derived from carotenoids, and those are from what they eat. I see some great egrets in there. Looks like a great blue heron and some tricolored herons too. So spoonbills will often feed with other species, ibis and herons and egrets and things like that. Okay, I also see some wood storks coming in too. Now all these animals are here because the water level has been lowered in this impoundment, and there's a lot to eat here. Things that spoonbills like to eat include shrimp, crabs, even small fish. And they've got these wonderful bills that they can wave back and forth, side to side. They've got them slightly open. You can see what they're feeding in. They're feeding in silt and sort of mucky areas. and they have to use that specialized bill to find the little crustaceans and shrimp and things that they eat. Now they have very sensitive nerve endings in the bill, so they can move it back and forth, and when they feel something, they close the bill, strain out the silt, and get the crab or shrimp or small fish. Just a very, very specialized feeding apparatus. Of course, the wood storks are feeding slightly differently. If they feel something, they snap the bill shut very quickly. Now, the other thing that's kind of interesting is not only are the birds feeding here, but there's also a lot of fish feeding. So, the fish are feeding on the same crabs and shrimps and things that the birds are. And so occasionally you'll see a splash of very likely a red drum or something like that. Oh, good stuff. I just absolutely love spoonbills. Now, males and females look similar, almost exactly alike. Spoonbills have a wingspan of about 4 feet long, so they're pretty big birds. They weigh 2.5 to 5 pounds, somewhere in there. Spoonbills don't really nest in the low country, primarily Florida and the Gulf Coast of Florida, Caribbean, Central and South America. But we're seeing more and more of them around. You know, I don't know about you guys, but I think it'd be pretty cool if they nested right here in the low country. Thanks for joining us on Coastal Kingdom.